Okay, so the Firefly V2. To keep it short, yes, they improved everything that was wrong with the first version. Extra grip, better balance, tighter tolerances. That being said, it is still a very weird Balisong, and honestly, a lot of people aren't gonna like it. Still very square, still very large. But overall, if you saw my V1 video, I have basically the exact same thoughts. This is just done better in basically every way. Definitely worth the money, definitely still a great knife, still holds up awesome, and is still one of my favorite flippers. And now for the longer answer. What was improved with the Firefly V2? The main thing that was improved are the handles. The handles always had a little line down the front, which was great, but the one thing it was severely lacking on was grip on the sides. They added jimping, which is perfect, and they also added these side cutouts, which I absolutely love. The one thing I will say about this is that I feel like the cutouts could be deeper. They definitely work, they're amazingly designed and in the perfect positions, but if they just made them a bit deeper or a bit more aggressive, I feel like they'd work a lot better. If you compare them to something like the Kraken, which has some of the best grip on any Balisong, the cutouts on the Kraken for the jimping and the side cutout go a lot deeper than the ones on the Firefly do. Balance-wise, I believe there was a slight change. It's a little bit more neutral now. It feels a little more normal to flip, about as normal as this thing can get. I like the balance of the Firefly already, so this is definitely just a slight improvement for me. Still big, still weird to flip, and its momentum is still absolutely awesome, but I don't find the balance to actually be that bad. It does basically everything I want it to do with no issue at all. I highly encourage you to watch my V1 review if you haven't watched that already, because basically everything I say in that holds true in this as well. When it comes to flipping, it's still very weird, and since the review of the V1, I have become a much better flipper, and I've learned a lot of new tricks, and I'm starting to realize that flipping this thing is a little harder than I thought it was. Before, when I recorded my V1 video, I didn't know how to do things like a good choker fan. I didn't know, wow, that was a terrible one. I didn't know how to do ladders. I didn't know how to do a lot more complicated tricks. But now that I do, and I'm getting better at them, I kind of realize some of the issues people have with the Fireflies in the first place. Like I said in my V1 review, they are odd. They're very big, they're very blocky, and they have just a really chunky vibe to them. So when you first get one, it can be very weird to flip, and it's gonna take a lot to get used to. And on the V1, there was some issues that I feel like were holding it back from being a just generally good flipper overall. But on the V2, with the added grip and just balance improvements, I feel like they fixed most of them. With the V2, it's definitely weird, but I feel like you could be confident enough with this and you could get comfortable enough with this that you could become a monster flipper using one of these. I've already seen people do some crazy stuff with these. There's a few people on Instagram who have one. I did a collab with Benny, or Beppers, on Instagram back when I had the Firefly V1, and he was going crazy with one of these. And if somebody like him got his hands on a V2, I feel like they'd be a lot more comfortable with it. Now, another thing that was hugely improved over the V1 is tolerances. The Firefly V1, coming to everyone that I handed it to and said, hey, try this, was notorious for having very weird tolerances. It didn't really get tap, but it had a ridiculous amount of play. It still felt great, but tolerance-wise, it didn't feel as premium as some of the big names like Squid Industries. But on the V2, I will confidently say that they have improved the tolerances greatly. This thing feels great, it feels rock solid, and with some good oil, honestly, it feels just about as good as a lot of the other knives in my collection. Of course, the main thing is that it is a bottle opener, which I talked about in my V1 review, but especially with the improvements of the V2, out of all the bottle opener Balisongs, this is definitely the best one. That's a weird niche category to compete in, but over a Mako, this thing definitely is a lot better to flip and just to carry. I find durability on this is, for some reason, absolutely insane. Even the V1 I beat to hell, and it barely showed any wear at all. It's only 6061 aluminum, I believe, but somehow, I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's the coating they use or just the design in general. These things take a beating. Overall, flipping is generally really good. In my V1 review, I said that the Firefly has this magical weight distribution, which basically means that anything you do flows really, really well, and it's the exact same thing here. If you can get over the size of the handles and get over the shape of it, this thing absolutely just flows beautifully. BBFireFly as a company, I'm not exactly sure who's behind it, how many people are there. They are just absolutely amazing at making needed improvements. They took the Firefly and didn't just stuff useless stuff onto it in order to call it a V2. They listened to the community and made the improvements that we directly wanted to see. When the Firefly V2 was revealed with the different balance and the new handles in the cutouts in the front, immediately comments were add jimping, add lines on the side, add jimping. Within a couple hours, they updated the model and added jimping to it. BBFireFly is, in my opinion, one of the best Balisong manufacturers right now because they listen to the community. They have a very distinct brand, they're doing their own thing, and they're incredibly unique, but they listen, and they make sure that their knives flip well. On top of this, the people behind BBFireFly are just amazing people, especially Serge, the one who opted to send this out to me. He's an absolutely amazing person. He originally saw my V1 review, and he really liked it, so they put it up on the website as like a demo for the V1. And then by the time the V2 came around, I was already thinking of buying one, and then I got an email from Serge that said, hey, we would like to send you something, and I want your opinions on it. And of course, I wasn't going to say no to that, considering how much I loved my V1. I did unfortunately have to sell my V1. I came a little short on money, and I had to sell it off. But I'm incredibly happy to have a V2, and I definitely think it is an improvement. Now, if you don't have a Firefly and you want to buy one, I absolutely recommend it. Just know it is big, it is weird, and you might not like it, but it is definitely worth a try. If you have a V1, getting a V2 is an upgrade. What I would recommend is to sell your V1 and buy a V2 because there's really not a point to have both. It's not big enough of an upgrade to warrant having both of them, but it is big enough of an upgrade to warrant selling your old one and getting a new one. However, if you're rocking a V1 still, don't feel like you need to upgrade or that you're missing out on a ton. You get the same experience, it's just this guy has more grip, better balance, and better tolerances. It's still a Firefly. And when I tell you there is no trainer at all that has this level of just uniqueness yet still being a good flipper. Flipping a Firefly, you will remember what it flips like. There's a ton of knives, especially after coming back from Blade Show, that I tried and I'm like, yeah, they're good, but I don't really remember anything that stuck out to me. The Firefly sticks out a lot. I remember even when Ethan, camaroEE, who you probably all know at this point, tried my Firefly V1 when I first got it. For literally weeks after he tried it, he was like, man, I'm still thinking about that Firefly. Like, I still distinctly remember what it feels like. The Firefly just does that because it's so unique and it's so just solid. In my V1 review, I said that the Firefly was my favorite trainer of all time. That is no longer true. It has been dethroned. However, it is still definitely top 3. What has been dethroned by, I will talk about in my next video, but it is still definitely top 3, and I absolutely freaking love this thing. When it comes to Balisongs, I don't want the best standard flipper. I want something that's unique. I want something that I enjoy and have fun with. I don't care if it's a 10 out of 10 flipping experience if I personally don't like it very much. It really, really does come down to personal preference, and that's something that we need to understand in the Balisong community. Not everyone is going to like everything. But the Firefly is definitely one of those cases where if you don't like it, you probably really hate it, but if you do like it, this will be one of the most fun and interesting Balisongs you've ever tried. So I want to give a final thank you to Serge and BBFireFly for sending this out to me. Absolutely love the thing, and I highly, highly recommend it. And if you didn't see from my last video, I did start a Patreon. Supporting me on Patreon gets you access to these videos a few days in advance, as well as some other perks, which I'm working on figuring out, but there definitely will be more in the future. For $1 a month, you get access to these videos early, and anything after that is just supporting me and helping me make videos like this happen. A huge, huge thank you to Dougal Do ICU, which I know is Duck. Why is that your name? Just name yourself Duck. Also, Lily. Why did you pledge that much money? Anyways, thank you to all of my Patreon supporters, but especially thank you to those who pledge $5 or extra. Gas is expensive, and driving out to the park to film costs money. And I really do appreciate all of you who support me and even just watch my videos and follow me on Instagram. It really does mean a lot to me, and it helps keep me going and making videos like this. Speaking of Instagram, I encourage you to follow me there. I've started to post a lot more flipping clips because I feel like I'm getting to a point where I am comfortable showing off my flipping. And also, it gives me an excuse to put out a video that's not a super high production video like this one. So I really hope you enjoyed this video. I want to give a final thank you to Serge and BBFireFly for sending this out to me, and I will hopefully see you all very, very soon. Peace out.